Now let's talk about visitor and customer analytics. How many are going to a site? We want to know how many people are going to a site. So we want to look at a site's visitor numbers just to get an idea of how much activity they have. This is kind of the benchmark of where we really get a grasp on what's going on with a site. How many visitors they have, where the traffic's coming from, what are those numbers, how traffic is coming in and how traffic's going out. And of course, where possible, we'd really like to know their customer visitor numbers. In other words, visitors to their shopping cart pages, so we can kind of estimate buyer numbers. Now, this is important to point out. According to many sources, the average shopping cart abandonment rate is about 68%. So, of the number of visitors that go to shopping cart pages, they get 68% of those people abandon it and don't, complete an order and buy. But about 32% of those shopping cart visitors typically end up becoming buyers. They complete the shopping cart process. So about a third of those people. Now you can use sites like Alexa.com, Compete.com, and SimilarWeb.com. These are some of the best ones to research visitor as well as those customer analytics. All of these sites have a free version, so you don't have to pay any money. They do have premium versions that show more data and a longer history, but you can certainly find a lot of great information for free. Now I'm going to show you that here in just a second. Okay, so this is SimilarWeb at similarweb.com, an incredibly powerful competitive intelligence tool. And as I said before, a lot of these tools have free versions as well as paid versions, and SimilarWeb is no exception. They have a great free version, and that's all I'm going to use right now is just the free version, just to show you how popular it is. So I'm going to do a lookup on a site, which is a very popular site in the dog training niche. And I know this because a very smart marketer who's actually done presentations at different seminars, this is his business, and he's actually shown off a lot of what he's done before. So his main site is the dogtrainingsecret.com. And he's one of the bigger dog training product sites on the internet, for info products and training products. So we type this into SimilarWeb, and what we see are some basic numbers. The global rank, we can see monthly visits during the last 6 months. So we can see the estimated visits in January 2015 are 190,000. So 190,000 uniques most likely. So that's a lot of visitors. And we can see how the traffic has trended kind of month to month. And we can see how it's kind of spiking here going into the new year, how it's kind of picking up. So not only can we see kind of the activity and that he's getting a lot of visitors, but here's what's great about SimilarWeb. We can look right here and we can see traffic sources. We can see how the traffic breaks down. 23% of the traffic comes direct, like people just typing in the URL. 8.7% from referrals from other sites. 45% from search. And 18% from display. So these are from ads that he'd be running to get people to the site. Now, one of the powerful things, and I briefly mentioned this to you before. We talked about, and it's all going to come together by the end of this class. Remember I was talking about the formula for like how to kind of rate an opportunity? And I said one of the negatives was, if you remember in the methodology video, one of the negatives was if more than 50% of their traffic comes from SEO, that's a danger sign because it's very, very hard, of course, to get those SEO rankings. And our two main core principles, if you remember, are speed to get to market as well as cost to get to market. And you can't get to market quickly if you have to have a bunch of search engine optimization traffic because SEO stuff takes time. But in SimilarWeb, we can click on search here, and what we can actually see for search traffic is that of this search traffic, which 45% of his traffic is from search traffic, that doesn't mean the 45% is SEO traffic. If we look at the chart, and this is what makes SimilarWeb very, very cool, how it breaks all this down, we can see that 80.6% is organic search. That's the SEO traffic. And it'll even show you all the keywords that they rank for and which ones are driving most of the traffic, as well as the search engines that are sending the traffic. But over here we can see that 19.37% comes from paid search. So this is coming from pay-per-click keywords. And of course, it shows you what keywords he's advertising for. And we're going to get into more of this in our phase 1 part 2, which will start soon, where we really get into analyzing keywords and ads and display ads and so on. But this is just looking at basic analytics first. But this is one way you can quickly see if it has more than that 50% SEO, and it doesn't, because the amount of SEO is really 80% of 45%. So whatever that number is, 10% of 45 is 4.5, 20% would be 9. So 9 minus this, whatever that math is, thinking off the top of my head, it's whatever that comes out to be. I'm confused. 36. So 36, 37%. So basically, to figure out what the SEO traffic is, 45% of his traffic is search, 80% is actually the SEO. So 80% of 45 would be exactly what the search traffic would be. So that comes out to, I think, like 36%. So that's well below our 50% threshold. But we can clearly see all kinds of great data in SimilarWeb, and this is all free. This is completely free. Of what you can see without even paying for their premium tool. Great, great stuff. It can show you by category where the visitors kind of come from that also share, where they go to other sites. We can see, related kind of keywords. We can see other sites that they visited. We're going to get more into all this stuff. Just some incredible, incredible information you can find with these tools. But right now we're just talking about customer analytics and visitor analytics. So we covered visitors, got about 190,000 visitors, as we saw right here, 190,000 estimated visitors in January 2015. But now we want to know how many shopping cart visitors or potentially how many buyers is he getting? So let's jump over here. This is actually, let's go back. This is actually his sales page, or one of them, for one of his products. So this is one of the products that he sells. I'd already pulled this up in a tab for you. So this is just the long form sales letter that sells it. Now if we go to the bottom, we'll see the add to cart button where you can go buy. Okay, well, we'll click add to cart. And what we're doing here is we're now on a shopping cart page where we can actually buy the product. But let's look at the URL. The URL is secure.thedogtrainingsecret.com. So he has this domain, secure.thedogtrainingsecret.com. Now, in these analytic tools, you can actually look up visitor numbers just by subdomains. Okay? So let's go back to SimilarWeb and let's search for secure.thedogtrainingsecret.com. This is his subdomain or shopping cart. Now, I'm going to explain something to you real quick. This is estimated visits 110,000 in January. But if we look here, he's got a huge spike, and it's almost as close as what the visitors number was. We saw the visitor numbers were like 190,000. So that kind of doesn't make sense because that's like more than half the people are going to the shopping cart. That's not what's happening there. So my guess is what's happening here with this spike and why he's getting so many people to his secure page is one of two things. He's now hosting something else on the secure domain, which could be the opt-in page or some other things. Or typically you see a spike like this in shopping cart activity, which is not equal to actual full buyers when someone runs like a dollar trial. So this is why you really have to get good at investigating the nuances of these numbers, of knowing why numbers are going up, why there are a high percentage of shopping cart visitors to regular visits. Because if it's any more than 1 or 2%, it's usually something else going on, and that's the case here. So he's probably either doing a dollar trial or he has recently moved more pages onto that secure subdomain. But let's back up. Let's go back to about October or September. Let's go to September. We see a visitor number of 6,000 in the month of September 2014 to this secure page, which probably at that time was still just his shopping cart for his product. So September 2014, we see a number of 6,000. If we take about a third of that, remember the shopping cart abandonment rates, we'd get a number of about 2,000. So obviously, if he's selling a $100 product and we have a number of about 2,000, that's about 200,000 in sales for the month, which is obviously very, very healthy. Now, that doesn't mean that's all of his sales. He could certainly be generating revenue in other ways with advertising revenue or doing back ends or doing affiliate promotions, doing other things. But we can kind of estimate roughly the kind of sales that he may be doing from at least that one product that we looked at that's definitely going to this page. Now, I've actually looked into, some of his other pages, and he's got other subdomains. So let me see if I can find it on here. I know I was looking at another tool. His name's Chet Womack. He actually has an Infusionsoft account. This almost seems kind of sinister, like looking into all this stuff in someone's business, but actually it's not showing up here. But on another tool, I think it was compete.com, I looked and I put in his Infusionsoft subdomain, and it would show some of those. Oh, here it is. See, look, top destination sites, womack.infusionsoft.com. So some of the traffic on his site gets sent to a shopping cart page on Infusionsoft with that subdomain. So we could go and then research all of the data numbers on that shopping cart page and get some other customer numbers as well. But anyways, this should just get your feet wet in looking up visitor numbers as well as looking up customer numbers to kind of try to figure out what kind of money a business is making, how big their sales are. We certainly can't estimate profit right now initially. We'll kind of get to that mode to where we can kind of start figuring those things out by looking at ad spend and trying to put the numbers together about how things are converting and maybe what the EPC is when we start looking at that. But for now, I just want you to get general visitor numbers and try to find kind of, some general shopping cart numbers so we can start doing some estimates and figuring out how much different businesses are making in revenue. And then ultimately, when we start drilling down into what they're spending, we can start figuring out their profit. And of course, there are all kinds of other factors to consider, whether they, have employees or there's other, hidden costs or they're doing licensing deals. But we'll get to breaking into all that. But this is where we start. We start with traffic numbers to get kind of a snapshot, overall view of a website to see, what their visitor numbers are. Now, if you remember the reverse IP lookup trick that we did that would show us kind of the other websites on their server, we can often find that companies use multiple websites for their business, of course. So I'm sure he's using more than one site, so we'd want to look into the other sites that he has if we really want to get the full picture of kind of the total visitors and hopefully the total sales estimates. But this gives you kind of a basic overview of looking into one website for its visitor numbers and of course for its shopping cart numbers. Okay, now it's time for you to do the exercise that I've attached. So I want you to do the exercise on visitor and customer analytics, look up some competitors, think of some website names, and try and look into the data just like I showed you how to do. And fill out the exercise, and you'll start to kind of get your feet wet in kind of where you want to start with figuring out how many visitors are going to a site and hopefully figuring out how many buyers they have.